alien girl was left for dead by a truck until a human refused to walk away. The sky was dark. Heavy clouds covered the stars. Rain poured like the sky was crying. It was late at night, and the road was empty except for one old pickup truck. Its headlights cut through the rain, but even they couldn't see clearly. Inside the truck, a man named Rick was driving fast. He had been drinking. His radio played loud music. He didn't care about anything, not the rain, not the speed, not the road. Suddenly something stepped onto the road. Rick didn't have time to stop. There was a loud thud. The truck hit something soft but strong. He hit the brakes hard, but the truck slid a few feet before stopping. He looked into the rearview mirror. There was a body lying in the rain. But it didn't look human. Silver skin, glowing blood, long limbs that didn't look right. Rick's hands shook. What the hell was that? He didn't get out. Instead, he turned the wheel, pressed the gas, and drove away fast, leaving the body behind. Minutes passed. The rain kept falling. The alien woman lay on the ground. Her breathing was shallow. Her left leg was broken. Her shoulder was bleeding. Her skin, shiny like liquid metal, was scratched and torn. Her glowing eyes opened slowly. She looked around. She tried to move but couldn't. Pain shot through her whole body. She reached out with one hand, weak, cold, lost. Her mind whispered in her own language, "Help. Please." But no one heard. Far away, another truck was coming down the same road. This one was older, slower, and inside it sat a man named Ethan Cole, a quiet man who lived alone outside the town. He was a mechanic, kind, simple, honest. His dog, Max, sat beside him on the passenger seat. Ethan's eyes narrowed when he saw something ahead. He slowed the truck. As the lights hit the figure lying on the road, his jaw dropped. What in the world? He stopped the truck and stepped out into the rain. Max barked once and stayed inside. Ethan ran over to the body and knelt down. He expected a dead animal. But this was something else. A woman? No, not human. Her face was beautiful, but strange. Her skin shimmered like polished stone. Her arms were long and elegant. Her hair was soft and glowing faintly. And her blood? It glowed bright blue. "Oh my God," Ethan whispered. "You're not from here." She looked at him. Barely. Her lips moved but made no sound. Then, her hand touched his. Something passed between them. A strange feeling, like a message without words. "Help me." Without thinking, Ethan picked her up in his arms. She was light, but limp, like a broken doll. He carried her to the truck, gently placed her in the back seat, and covered her with his jacket. Max sniffed her once, then sat down quietly, sensing something serious. Ethan started the engine and drove fast back toward his home, heart pounding. Back at his house, he brought her inside. His home was small but warm. A fire burned in the corner. He laid her on the couch and looked for anything to stop the bleeding. He wasn't a doctor, but he had fixed engines, machines, and even a few wounded animals before. He cleaned the wound, wrapped her leg, and covered her with a blanket. She didn't speak. Her eyes opened and closed slowly. He sat beside her, watching her. "Who are you?" he whispered. "And what happened to you?" Outside, the rain got louder, but inside it was quiet, except for the soft breathing of the alien girl and the crackle of fire. Ethan didn't know what he had just done, but something told him he had saved someone important, and maybe his quiet life was about to change forever. The storm still growled outside when Ethan carried the alien woman into his home. Her skin was cold to the touch, like smooth metal, left in winter wind, but she was alive, just barely. Max, his loyal dog, walked behind quietly, sniffing the air with alert eyes. Ethan didn't switch on the main lights. He didn't want her to wake up in panic. Instead, he lit a few lamps in the fireplace. Soft, warm light filled the room. He placed her carefully on his old leather couch, wrapped her in thick blankets, and sat down on the floor beside her. His hands shook. He had seen injuries before, but never on a creature not from Earth. She looked so fragile now. Ethan spoke softly, unsure if she could understand. "You're safe here. I won't hurt you." Her eyelids twitched. Suddenly her fingers moved, slowly curling, then opening again. Her lips parted slightly as if trying to speak. But no voice came out, only a low breath. It sounded like wind through glass. He grabbed a clean towel, warm water, and a first aid kit. She had cuts along her arms, bruises on her ribs, and a deep wound on her shoulder. But what caught his eye most was a strange circular mark glowing faintly near her collarbone. It looked like a brand, a symbol, burned into her skin. Hours passed. She didn't sleep. But she didn't move much either. Ethan boiled soup. The smell filled the house. Max wagged his tail, knowing dinner was near. Ethan placed the bowl on the table and looked back at the couch. The alien girl was watching him now, barely, lifting her head. Her eyes were large, glowing softly like liquid stars. She looked afraid, confused, and tired all at once. He smiled gently and pointed to the bowl. "Food. You need to eat." She blinked slowly. He took a spoonful, sipped it to show it was safe, then brought the spoon closer to her. She flinched, at first, but then, surprisingly, opened her mouth. She swallowed the warm broth. Her body trembled a little. The heat seemed to bring life back into her. Then, for the first time, she tried to speak. One word. "Netu. Ra." Her voice was soft, strange, musical even. Ethan tilted his head. "Netura? Is that your name?" She nodded once. Weak, almost like a ghost. He smiled. "Okay, Netura. My name's Ethan." Suddenly, Max growled. Ethan stood up quickly and looked out the window. Two black SUVs were slowly driving past the road outside his farm, unmarked. Windows tinted, they didn't stop, but they were looking for something, or someone. Ethan turned off the last lamp. Darkness returned to the room. His voice was low, serious. "Looks like someone's already searching for you." The alien girl, Netura, closed her eyes, as if the word searching hit her deeply. Her fingers gripped the blanket tighter. Her body shook. She wasn't just injured. She was running, and Ethan had just become part of whatever she was running from. That night, Ethan didn't sleep. He sat on the armchair, holding an old rifle across his lap, watching the window. Max stayed at the door, ears up, listening to every sound. Behind him, Netura rested. In the silence, Ethan wondered, who was she? Why was she here? And why did that strange symbol on her skin look like a warning? But deep down, one thing was already clear. Whatever she was, someone wanted her back, and Ethan wasn't going to let them take her. Not now. The morning was silent, but it didn't feel peaceful. Ethan stood by the window, holding a coffee mug in one hand, his rifle resting near the door. Outside, the world looked calm. Green fields, muddy road, and the last traces of last night's rain. But inside his chest, something felt heavy. Behind him, the alien girl, Netura, was awake. She sat upright now, wrapped in the same blanket, her glowing eyes scanning every corner of the room like she didn't trust the safety. She was different today, alert, watching, listening. Ethan noticed. "You're stronger," he said softly. Netura didn't speak. Instead, she raised one hand and pointed at the ceiling. Her fingers glowed faintly. Then she pointed at her own head, then toward the woods outside. Ethan narrowed his eyes. "What are you trying to say?" She stood slowly, limping but determined. She walked to the door and placed her hand flat on the wooden frame. Then she whispered a word in her language. More coming. That same hour, miles away in the forest, animals ran from something unseen. Birds flew in sudden bursts. Insects scattered. Something was disturbing the natural silence. And deep in the woods, a black pod stood, half buried in the earth, still humming. Inside it, something moved. Back at Ethan's house, the mood had changed. Natura walked slowly to the old garage where Ethan kept broken machines and old tools. She pointed to a rusted car battery and some wires. Ethan raised a brow. "What, you want that?" She nodded. Then, to his shock, she grabbed the wire, touched it with her hand, and the current jumped through her palm like it obeyed her. The wound on her shoulder sparked. A glowing circuit beneath her skin lit up. Ethan gasped. "You're not just flesh. You're part machine?" She looked at him. No words, just silence. A look of apology, or maybe warning. Then she said in broken English, "I signal my people." Night came quickly, and with the night came something else. As Ethan closed the last window shutter, Max barked from the porch, loud, angry, nervous. Ethan rushed outside. In the distance, across the field, 3 lights floated in the sky. Not drones, not helicopters. They were silent, moving slow, watching, and then vanished. Ethan looked back toward the house. Natura was at the doorway, her silver skin reflecting the moonlight, her eyes shining like distant stars. She spoke only 3 words. "They are close." Later that night, while Ethan tried to sleep on the couch with a shotgun nearby, Natura stood near the window staring into the darkness. She placed her hand on the glass and whispered in her own tongue. Her voice was soft, sad, and full of fear. Somewhere far away, someone answered her signal, and not all who heard it were friendly. The rain was gone, but the air still smelled like wet earth and danger. Inside Ethan's quiet farmhouse, a strange peace settled over the room. Yet beneath it, tension crawled like a hidden wire. Ethan sat at the table trying to fix an old radio. Tools were spread around. Max, his dog, slept beside him. The alien girl, Natura, stood in the corner, staring at a picture on the wall. It was a photo of Ethan's family, his little sister, his father, and him, long ago. Natura touched it gently, tracing the edges of each face with her glowing fingers. "You miss them?" she asked. Her voice was shaky, her English, still broken but clearer than before. Ethan turned, surprised. "You're learning fast." She nodded slowly. "You feel pain? Here." She tapped her chest. Ethan gave a short laugh. "Yeah, been feeling it for years." She sat across from him. They didn't speak for a while, but the silence between them wasn't empty. It was full of questions that had no words. Later that evening, she picked up a metal spoon and a wrench from the workbench. She held them both up. "Same?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. "No. One is for eating. The other is for fixing things." She looked confused. Then tried again. She touched her chest. "Me." Then she pointed to the spoon. Soft, she touched the wrench. Hard. Then looked at him. Ethan understood. "You're asking if you're soft or hard?" She nodded. He smiled gently. "Both." Her eyes glowed a little brighter. That night, Ethan lit a fire. Natura sat nearby, hands stretched toward the warmth. Suddenly she whispered, "You helped me, but you did not ask why." Ethan poked the fire with a stick. "Didn't need to," he said. "You were hurt. That was enough." She turned toward him, her expression unreadable. "On my world, no one helps without reason." Ethan looked at her, serious now. "Well, this isn't your world." She lowered her gaze, then slowly reached out and placed something in his hand, a small crystal disc, glowing from the inside. "This has my truth," she said. "My memory, but it only shows once." Ethan looked at the disc, unsure. "What will I see?" Her voice was a whisper. "Why I ran." Later, in his room, Ethan inserted the disc into his old projector. It flickered, sparked, and then lit up the wall with moving images. He saw her planet, beautiful, glowing, filled with towering crystal cities. Then, war, explosions, screams, soldiers dragging people away, machines marking the weak, branding. Then Ethan gasped when he saw her, Natura, being chased, cornered, and struck, branded with the same symbol on her collarbone. Her crime? She refused to be part of something cruel. She had helped others escape. She had defied them. And now, they wanted her silenced. The memory ended. Ethan sat in silence, the disc still warm in his hand. When he returned to the living room, Natura was still by the fire, eyes closed. He sat beside her. "You didn't deserve that." She looked at him. "I was nothing to them." He leaned back. "To me, you're not nothing." Silence again. But this silence was different now. It was a language they both understood. A language without words, built from pain, survival, and quiet trust. Outside, unseen in the sky above, a satellite turned slowly, tracking the faint signal coming from Earth. It had heard Natura's message, and something was on its way. The wind changed that morning. It carried something sharp, a feeling that made birds fly early, and Max growled deep in his chest. Ethan stood on the porch, staring at the long road that led to his farm. Nothing moved, but he felt it. Natura stood, behind him, silent, eyes on the horizon. She whispered, "They are here." Ethan turned. "How do you know?" She looked up at the sky. "Because I stopped hiding." At 10:47 a.m., the silence broke. Two black SUVs pulled up at the edge of Ethan's property. The vehicles were large, matte black, with strange antennae on top. No logos, no plates, only tinted windows and engines that made no sound. The doors opened, slowly. Men stepped out, tall, cold, and dressed in dark tactical armor. Their faces were hidden behind visors. Each one carried a strange weapon, half machine, half crystal. Ethan stepped off the porch, shotgun in hand. One of the men raised a badge. It didn't say FBI, military, or government, just one word: recovery. "Stand down," the lead man said. "You're harboring a Class S entity. She belongs to us." Ethan didn't flinch. "She's not a thing. She's a person, and she's not going anywhere with you." The man tilted his head. "You don't know what you're protecting." "I know enough," Ethan said. "You left her to die." Inside the house, Natura opened the drawer Ethan had shown her the night before. Inside was a flare gun, a compass, a knife, and something else. A small, black, cube-shaped beacon. She stared at it, then pressed her palm to it. It began to blink slowly. One red light, then two. Back outside, the men spread out. One aimed his weapon toward the barn. "Last chance," the leader warned. "Step aside." Ethan lowered his shotgun, but only to reload it. "I said no." The man nodded. Then the first shot fired. Chaos exploded. Ethan dove behind a tractor. Bullets hit the ground near his feet. Max barked wildly, running between shadows, distracting one of the attackers. Inside, Natura moved like light, fast but graceful, despite her limp. She pressed buttons on the alien beacon, muttering in her language. A small hologram appeared, spinning like a star map. The beacon was locked on something above the clouds. She had called for help. But would it come in time? Ethan rolled behind cover and returned fire. His shotgun wasn't made for war, but it made noise. It kept them back. One of the agents circled toward the house. Just as he reached the front door, Natura stepped out. Her hands glowed. She raised them, palms forward. A pulse of light blasted from her skin. Not deadly, but strong enough to knock the man backward into a tree. She fell to her knees, breathing hard. That power came at a price. Ethan ran to her side. "You okay?" She nodded weakly. "Too many. Then we run." He helped her up. Max circled them, barking madly. Together they slipped through the back, into the tall grass behind the farm. Ethan knew the land better than anyone. There were old tunnels, hidden ditches, and a dried creek that led to the forest. "We have 10 minutes, he said. Maybe less." Natura held the beacon close. Then we go now. Behind them, fire spread. The attackers set the house ablaze. Smoke rose into the sky like a signal, but it wasn't the only signal, because far above Earth, something finally answered. A star shifted, a shadow moved, and deep in orbit, a massive ship awakened. The girl had called home, and home was coming. Flames from Ethan's burning farmhouse lit up the night sky like a dying signal. Smoke danced in the wind, mixing with ash and silence. But Ethan, Natura, and Max were already gone. They ran through the back fields, crossed broken fences, and slipped into the dense forest behind the hill. Trees rose high above them like dark towers. The ground was wet, soft and full of roots waiting to trip the weak. Ethan knew this forest. It had been his backyard since childhood. Now it was their only shield. They moved without speaking. Natura limped, but didn't stop. Her glowing skin dimmed to hide them. Max ran ahead, scouting the trail. Ethan held a flashlight low, using red light to stay unseen. Behind them, faint lights moved through the trees. Drones, hunters, the ones who came with guns were not giving up easily. After an hour of silence and running, they reached an old wooden shack deep in the woods. It was half collapsed and smelled of mold, but it would hide them for now. Ethan kicked the door open gently. "We'll rest here." Natura fell to the floor, exhausted. Her breath came in shallow gasps. Her wound had reopened. Ethan quickly tore open his small med pack. "Stay with me." She tried to speak. Slow you down." Ethan looked straight into her eyes. "You're not a burden. You're the reason I'm still standing." Rain started again. Light at first, then heavier. The roof of the shack leaked in places, but they huddled near the center. Max curled up by the door. Outside, the wind howled like a warning. Natura reached into her side pouch and pulled out the beacon again. Ethan stared at it. "Did anyone hear you?" She looked up, eyes glowing softly. "Yes, but they are far." "How far?" "Another sky." Suddenly, Max growled. Outside, footsteps. Ethan stood and grabbed his rifle. He looked out through a crack in the wall and froze. Two black-armored soldiers stood only feet away. One held a scanning device. It beeped. They were tracking heat. Natura closed her eyes and whispered, "I can cloak. A little." Her hands shimmered, and her skin began to cool, turning almost transparent. Ethan threw a wet blanket over Max and crouched in the shadows. The door creaked. One soldier stepped in. His visor scanned the room. For a full 10 seconds, no one breathed. Then, a sharp beep. But before the soldier could react, a sudden blast of thunder shook the ground. A branch fell nearby. The noise distracted them. The soldier turned, shouted something to his partner, and ran back outside. They were safe. For now. After the danger passed, Ethan sat back, shaking. Natura leaned her head against his shoulder. "They won't stop. Not until I'm gone or dead." Ethan didn't answer right away. Then said, "We're going to make it. You're not dying in this forest." She looked at him, and for the first time since the crash, she smiled. Far, above the clouds, a crack opened in the stars. A shape moved. Huge, glowing, silent. Her people were coming. But so was something else. Something darker that had followed the signal too. The forest wasn't just hiding them anymore. It had become the battlefield. The stars were no longer still, above Earth. Something massive had arrived, silent, cloaked, and glowing faintly like a ghost moon. It hovered in orbit, watching, waiting, listening. Back on the forest floor, Ethan and Natura stood at the edge of a cliff, trees behind them and darkness all around. They had run all night, hiding from heat sensors, dodging drones, and crossing cold rivers with bare feet. But now, there was nowhere left to run. Below them in the valley, lights moved like hungry eyes. Black-suited soldiers were spreading out, forming a wide circle. One of them raised a scanner into the air. It beeped once. Then again. They had found her. Ethan checked his last 2 bullets, one in the rifle, one in the pistol. He looked at Natura. It's time. She nodded. Her hand trembled as she pulled the beacon from her belt, now blinking rapidly with red and blue lights. It's ready, she whispered. But it needs power. I must connect. What kind of power? She looked up. My life, if needed. Ethan grabbed her wrist. No. Natura placed her palm on the beacon. Sparks jumped. Her body glowed faintly. A low hum began to rise in the air, like music made from light. The signal pulsed upward, cutting through the clouds, through the atmosphere, straight to the ship above. In space, the alien craft awakened. Its surface shimmered, panels moving, like living armor. It received her cry. It responded. Back on Earth, the soldiers opened fire. Ethan pulled Natura behind a rock. Stay low. Bullets ripped through trees. Max barked wildly, charging and drawing attention. Ethan shouted, Max, no! But the loyal dog gave them just enough time. Natura stood up, eyes shining bright. She raised her arms. The beacon exploded with light. Massive blue columns shot into the sky, like a flare made from stars. Everything stopped. The soldiers froze. Even the trees seemed to hold their breath. Then, the sound. A deep, vibrating hum filled the forest. Leaves shook, rocks trembled, the sky cracked open. A beam of white light shot down from above, hitting the beacon directly. The rescue had come. A sleek silver ship, quiet as the moon, descended between the trees. It didn't land. It hovered. The light from its core wrapped around Natura like a gentle hand. She turned to Ethan, eyes full of tears. I go now. Ethan stepped closer. You don't have to. She placed her hand on his chest. I must. But I remember you. Always. Ethan didn't speak. He simply pulled her into a hug. Soft, tight, final. Then she stepped into the light. The ship rose. The forest glowed, and then silence again. The soldiers dropped their weapons, their eyes wide, their scanners fried. The ship was gone. So was Natura. Ethan stood alone on the cliff. Smoke still hung in the air. Max limped back to his side, tail wagging weakly. He looked at the sky. She was safe now, and for the first time in a long time, he felt at peace. 1 month later, Ethan returned home. He rebuilt the farmhouse piece by piece. One morning, a package appeared at his door. No ship, no sound, just a box. Inside, a small glowing crystal and a note. Not forgotten, never alone. And he smiled, because now he knew. Some goodbyes were not the end.